There's a version of gaming that nobody talks about in the highlight reels. No teams, no voice chat, no leaderboards, no one watching. Just you, a controller, and a world that exists entirely for one person. No lobby to wait for, no schedule to coordinate, no one to impress. You load in, you play, you exist in a world that asks nothing of you except your presence. And for millions of players, perhaps the quiet majority, this is exactly what they want, exactly what they need. Not because they can't connect with others, but because they've discovered something that takes most people a lifetime to understand. Being alone and being lonely are two completely different things. Single-player games are built around a radical premise. This entire world, every mountain, every valley, every village, every story, exists for you. One person. Not a server full of strangers. Not a guild of 20. You. The river doesn't care if anyone else sees it. The sunset happens whether you stop to watch it or not. The deer in the forest moves through its morning routine with no audience and no agenda. And you get to walk through all of it at your own pace, on your own terms. No one can tell you you're playing wrong. No one can rush you through the opening cutscene. No one can judge your build, your choices, or the fact that you've spent 40 minutes decorating a room that serves no mechanical purpose. The world is yours, and that ownership, that complete, uncontested freedom, is something multiplayer games, for all their energy, simply cannot offer. Because the moment another person enters your world, you're no longer alone with it. You're performing it, even slightly, even with your closest friends. Solo play removes that performance entirely. And what's left is something surprisingly intimate. Just a person and a world getting to know each other. We've confused solitude with loneliness for so long that most people use the words interchangeably. But they describe completely different experiences. Loneliness is an ache. It's the feeling of wanting connection and not having it. It's absence. It's lack. Solitude is a choice. It's the deliberate creation of space. Space to think, to breathe, to be without the constant input of other people's needs, opinions, and energy. The philosopher Paul Tillich wrote, "Loneliness expresses the pain of being alone. Solitude expresses the glory of being alone." The difference isn't the circumstance. It's the meaning you give it. A person who plays alone because they have no other choice might feel lonely. But a person who plays alone because they want to, because they understand the particular gift of undistracted time in a world of their choosing, they're not lonely at all. They're in solitude. And solitude, chosen and embraced, is one of the richest states a human being can occupy. The quiet player knows this. They've found something that social gaming can't offer. The complete, uninterrupted experience of being fully present in a world without having to share it. Somewhere between a third and a half of the population leans introverted. And for introverts, solo gaming isn't just a preference, it's a form of self-care. The world is designed for extroverts. Open offices, group activities, networking events, social media metrics that measure worth in followers and engagement. The pressure to be visible, to be connected, to be always on. Introverts navigate all of this at a cost. Every social interaction, however enjoyable, uses energy. Not because they dislike people. Most introverts love people. But because processing social information requires genuine mental effort. And when you spend a full day giving that effort, you come home empty. And then you sit down in a single-player game, and the refilling begins. No performance, no social calculus, no reading of rooms or managing of impressions. Just a world that responds to your inputs without judging them. A world that gives you feedback without giving you an opinion. For an introvert, a good solo game isn't escapism. It's restoration. It's the equivalent of what a long walk in a quiet park does for the body. A reset. A return to baseline. A rebuilding of the reserves that the world spent down. And this isn't weakness. It's wisdom. Knowing how you recharge and actually doing it is one of the most emotionally intelligent things a person can choose to do. But solitude in games offers something beyond restoration. Something that surprised researchers when they first started studying it. Something that changes how you relate to yourself. Here's something that almost never gets discussed. Solo gaming is one of the only activities in modern life where your conscious mind is occupied just enough to stay out of the way. Think about it. When you're deep in a building game, placing structures, managing resources, planning your next expansion, your analytical mind is engaged, but gently. It's not working hard enough to be stressed, not idle enough to spiral. And in that middle space, something unexpected happens. Thoughts rise to the surface. Observations, insights, solutions to problems you weren't consciously trying to solve. Psychologists call this the default mode network, the part of your brain that activates when you're not focused on an external task. It's where creativity lives, where self-reflection happens, where your brain quietly processes the experiences it hasn't had time to digest. Many activities suppress this network. Scrolling, watching TV, listening to podcasts. They feed the mind content from the outside, crowding out the inside. But solo gaming does something different. It engages you just enough to quiet the noise, while leaving enough mental space for your own thoughts to move. This is why so many players report having their best ideas during a long play session. Why problems that seemed unsolvable suddenly become clear after an hour of building in silence. Why you sometimes sit down feeling knotted and stand up feeling sorted, even though nothing in your life has technically changed. You weren't just playing, you were thinking, quietly, in the background, in the way the mind does its best work. Here's the paradox at the heart of solo gaming. It's not entirely alone. The villages you build fill up with settlers. The world around you breathes with animals, with weather, with the rhythms of simulated life. And somewhere along the way, these non-player characters, these collections of code following their routines, start to feel like company. The blacksmith who nods as you pass. The farmer who follows her same path to the same field every morning. The dog that sits by the fire in the inn where you occasionally stop to rest. None of them know you exist, and yet they're there, consistent, reliable, present in a way that asks nothing of you. This is not delusion. It's a very human thing, the tendency to find companionship in consistency. We do it with pets who can't speak. We do it with houseplants we talk to. We do it with the barista who knows our order. Not a friend exactly, but a presence that makes the world feel slightly more personal. Virtual companions work the same way. They don't replace human connection. They offer something alongside it, a softer, lower-stakes version of presence, one that comforts without demanding, that accompanies without requiring anything back. And for players who are older, who may have lost friends or partners, who live alone or whose social circles have quietly contracted. This kind of companionship isn't trivial. It's not something to be embarrassed about. It's something to be grateful for. There's a cultural assumption that solo activities are somehow lesser, that if you're not playing with others, you're missing out, that single-player games are the beginner version, the training wheels, the consolation prize for people who couldn't find a group. This is wrong, and it's worth saying clearly. Some of the most profound gaming experiences ever created are single-player experiences. Some of the deepest stories, the most beautiful worlds, the most emotionally resonant moments in gaming history. They happened between one player and one game, with no audience and no witnesses. And some of the most meaningful moments in a player's life happened exactly the same way. Alone in a room, in a world that existed just for them, experiencing something that no one else will ever experience, in quite the same way. That's not small. That's intimate. That's personal. That's yours. The quiet player doesn't need a team to validate their experience. They don't need a leaderboard to measure their progress. They don't need witnesses. They just need a good world. And the wisdom to know that sometimes the best company you can keep is your own. There's a seat somewhere in your home, a specific spot where you sit when you play. Maybe it's a chair that's worn in just right. Maybe it's a corner of a couch that knows the shape of you. That seat is where you go to be a quiet player, where the world gets loud enough to drown out the noise and quiet enough to hear yourself think. It's not a small place. It's not a lonely place. It's yours. Entirely. Completely. And there is nothing wrong with that. See you in the next one.